The Amazon rainforest is being destroyed right in front of our eyes. And if you're one of those cynical people who think, well, that has nothing to do with me, I don't live there, I don't ever go to the Amazon, it has nothing to do with me, I'm probably never going to see them my entire life. Well, you're dead wrong, because without the Amazon rainforest, life as we know it on this planet is over. And that's not an exaggeration. That's not hyperbole. That's just what it is. The Amazon rainforest is one of the most important components to the entire planetary ecosystem. The Amazon produces 20% of all oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. The Amazon is the biggest filter for carbon that we have on the planet. Full stop. So while we're in the middle of a climate crisis caused by too much carbon and methane in the atmosphere, the Amazon is the only thing on the planet right now keeping us from going over the cliff. Well, right now, one of the most important resources that we have that is keeping our fragile ecosystem in check is under assault right now. The part of the story that's getting a lot of attention are these insane, unprecedented fires that are consuming the Amazon rainforest. This is one of the largest fires ever recorded in the Amazon. It's burning thousands of acres of forest, destroying indigenous land. One of the largest cities in Brazil, thousands of miles away from the actual fire, was pitch black in the middle of the day, 3 p.m. And it was as dark outside as if it was midnight, because the smoke from the fire was blocking out the sun from thousands of miles away. And that smoke is spreading all across South America. The rainwater in these areas that are affected by the smoke from the fire is pitch black. Some people collected the rainwater in water bottles and buckets or whatever. And because of all the ash and soot that's gotten into the atmosphere, when it rains, the water is pitch black. So what's going on right now in South America and in Brazil, and the broader implications that this has for the entire planet, it's really apocalyptic at this point. And I don't mean apocalyptic like religious end times and last days, all that shit. I mean by the dictionary definition, which is destruction or damage on a cataclysmic scale or on a catastrophic scale. It's hard to argue that that's not what's happening right now. But beyond that, what I need people to understand is this didn't just happen. This isn't just some wildfire that started by a lightning bolt that hit the ground. No, this is as a direct result of Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil's lunatic far-right extremist president, and his insanely pro-corporate agenda of deregulation. Ever since he came into office earlier this year, he's made 100% clear that he is going to greenlight the deforestation and the destruction of the Amazon. He deregulated the agribusiness, gave them carte blanche to cut down trees wherever they want, however many they want, cut off millions of dollars in funding to nonprofit organizations that were meant to protect the Amazon and the indigenous lands in Brazil. And what little rules that are left in place, Jair Bolsonaro's just come out and said that he's not going to enforce any of those rules. He's not going to have his government enforce any environmental protections that are meant to protect the Amazon rainforest. And he's doing all of this in the name of corporate profit. And then the sick, twisted part of all of this, even though all of this can be directly correlated, and I guess I should have led with this, but these fires were started by the agribusiness, the loggers and the people who were cutting down trees. Part of their day-to-day operations include clearing the brush. So they literally set it on fire. They're supposed to be controlled fires, and they burn the brush so that they can get to the trees. So as a result of Jair Bolsonaro greenlighting this assault on the Amazon, they've expanded agribusiness operations in the Amazon. So that means they're setting more fires to clear the brush. And as a result of that, some of these fires have gotten out of hand, which has started this gigantic, unprecedented fire that's consuming the Amazon. So as a direct result of Jair Bolsonaro and his policies, there's an unprecedented fire threatening the Amazon and all life on the planet. And in a disgusting and bizarre move, Jair Bolsonaro is now pointing the finger at the environmentalists and the NGOs, the nonprofit organizations that are dedicated to protecting the Amazon rainforest. He's saying that it's them who set the fire because Bolsonaro's administration cut millions of dollars in funding to those organizations, so they want their money back, so they're going to try to start a problem so they get their money back. What a absurd, deranged conspiracy theory. And it shows that he's just a brazen liar. On top of everything else, on top of him being an idiot, on top of him being corrupt, on top of him being willing to destroy the entire planetary ecosystem, Jair Bolsonaro is a brazen, bold-faced liar on the level of Donald Trump. I must say, he is on the level of Donald Trump. To turn around after you are directly responsible, nobody else. As soon as you come into office, that same year, the fires burning up the Amazon almost double. That is directly because Jair Bolsonaro and his policies. And then for him to go and blame the people who have dedicated their lives, the environmentalists, the indigenous people, the nonprofit organizations who have dedicated their lives to protecting the Amazon. He's going to turn around and point the finger at them. He says it's their fault. It's not the corporations, the agribusiness, that part of their practice. It is part of their practice to start fires in the Amazon rainforest. For him, it's inconceivable that some of those fires got out of hand and are now burning the Amazon rainforest to the floor. That's inconceivable to him. What he's going to try to sell everybody, what he's going to try to peddle is this lunatic conspiracy theory that it's the environmentalists who are actually responsible for burning the Amazon at this point. And beyond the fire, the deforestation is the root of the problem here, because it starts these fires, and beyond the fires, you're still cutting down thousands and thousands of trees. I believe that the calculations that some of the groups that monitor this have come up with is that every minute or every second, 1.5 football fields worth of trees is cut down in the Amazon. That is unsustainable. We're cutting down trees faster than they could grow, which means at some point the Amazon rainforest is going to be barren. There won't be any trees, and all of the benefits that those trees provide to the environment will be gone. Not to mention all of the wildlife in the Amazon will be gone. And this has started a broader conversation about how important is any individual country's sovereignty, their made up, drawn border on a map. How important is that when it comes to natural resources that affect all life on the planet? Like I mentioned earlier, the Amazon produces 20% of the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. And it's one of the biggest resources we have, fending off the runaway effects of climate change. Do you mean to tell me just because a large part of the Amazon lies within the Brazilian borders, the borders of the country of Brazil, nobody outside of Brazil has any say in what goes on there? I don't know, because with what we're seeing in Jair Bolsonaro's administration and this brazen disregard for the environment and life on the planet, and this worshiping of corporate profits above life on Earth, it seriously raises the question, should we allow this one man who's insanely corrupt and a fucking lunatic to have unilateral say on whether life on this planet continues? I say that's fucking crazy. And I don't know exactly how you deal with this because I'm just some asshole doing commentary on YouTube, but the way I see it, Jair Bolsonaro can't just use Brazilian sovereignty as an excuse to destroy the Amazon and effectively all life on the planet. The sovereignty of Brazil and any other country does not come above the lives of 7 billion people on this planet and all the other plant species and animals on this planet. So does that mean we make some kind of deal like we did with the Arctic and the North Pole, where all the major countries in the world agree that this place is off limits and we're not going to commercialize this, we're not going to destroy this because it's so essential to the planetary ecosystem, Do we do that with Brazil and we redraw the borders so that Jair Bolsonaro or just the Brazilian government in general doesn't have unilateral control over what happens in the Amazon? I don't know. But what I can tell you is this shit doesn't make any sense the way it is right now, because follow this to its logical conclusion. Say Jair Bolsonaro, as corrupt as he is, say he gets offered $10 million from all the major agribusiness corporations in the world. And they say, you know what, let's make a deal. We give you this $10 million and you let us cut down every single tree in the Amazon rainforest. Are you telling me that the entire world is just going to sit by and watch that happen and wring our hands about it and watch Jair Bolsonaro destroy the entire planetary ecosystem, all because Brazil's borders, they're made up drawn borders that we drew on a map, all because Brazil technically has sovereignty over this piece of land that is so vital to the entire planet? That's the logical conclusion. Do we allow them to cut down every single tree in the Amazon and sit back and watch it happen? And if that sounds absurd, and if that sounds like something that you're not willing to accept, then we need to start having these discussions about solutions like I mentioned before. Do we make the Amazon internationally protected land? I think we should. And there's something else about this story that's just bothered the shit out of me. And it's the social media reaction, the social media responses. Now, let me preface what I'm about to say with, maybe it's just me. Maybe for some reason this is sticking in my craw and I'm being overly sensitive or I'm looking way too into it. Whatever. I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with that. But it's been so annoying to see people's reaction to this on social media. I'm specifically talking about this "pray for the Amazon" hashtag. A bunch of people all over social media have been posting this hashtag "pray for the Amazon." This bugs me for two reasons. The first is, if we're being objective, there's no difference between all these people talking about "pray for the Amazon" and when Republicans talk about thoughts and prayers after a mass shooting. There's no difference. You sending your thoughts and prayers as some sort of solution to a policy problem does absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. How many millions of people have been praying for years and years and years to end world hunger? How many people have been praying to do that? For decades and decades and decades and decades. Has it happened? Have those prayers worked at all? Have they solved the problem or even ameliorated the problem of world hunger? No, they have not. World hunger is a problem that manifests from all sorts of policy decisions, like war and imperialism, stealing natural resources, wealth inequality. Those are things that you can directly correlate to the amount of people who are going hungry and don't have the money to feed themselves or their family. If you address those policy issues, then you address world hunger. I believe that the estimate is around what? It would cost $30 billion a year to end world hunger. So again, that's a policy solution to the problem. You sitting around praying isn't going to do anything because, like I said, people have been praying for decades. Millions and millions of people have been praying for decades to end world hunger. Here we are, 2019. We still have more world hunger. Arguably, there's more world hunger than there ever was before in history. So you want to fix the problem, you don't pray about it. People praying for world peace. That's really, you think you praying for world peace is going to do something to end wars? No, it's not. You know what would do something to end wars? Changing policy. Fighting for non-interventionism if you're in the United States. We are responsible for arguably most of the wars that are going on in the world. If there was a giant anti-war movement in the United States, if we were pressuring politicians to end these wars or voting out politicians who are clearly pro-war, well, then we would change policy And in that change of policy, we would end these wars that are going on in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen. You want something to change, you change the policy. You don't just pray about it. And for some reason, everybody seems to understand that that is the height of lazy intellectualism and lazy activism when Republicans and right-wingers do it over the issue of guns. But when it comes to other shit, liberals and lefties would do the same shit. Oh, let's pray for the Amazon. Which brings me to the second thing that I don't like about the way people have been talking about this in social media is when you talk about pray for the Amazon, it makes it seem as if this was just some accident. It was some accident. It was an act of God. There's nothing that we can do to control the situation. It happened, and we just have to pray or just hope that somewhere something happens and this fire just goes out as mysteriously as it started. Or when all you do is post a screenshot of somebody's post saying pray for the Amazon. When you're doing that, implied in that is that it's just beyond our control and it just happened out of nowhere, and we just have to hope that it resolves itself out of nowhere. But intentional or not, that is misleading information. You're giving people misleading information. If you want to actually talk about what's happening in the Amazon, you cannot do that unless you directly put blame on Jair Bolsonaro and his administration, because they are directly responsible. Like I mentioned earlier, their policies, their actions have directly led to this. You don't get 80% increase in the fires in the Amazon in just a 1-year difference out of nowhere. That came as a direct result of Jair Bolsonaro's policies. He almost doubled the amount of fires that are happening in the Amazon from last year. That is his fault. And beyond that, like I mentioned, his agenda of deforestation at the behest of agribusiness is also going to destroy the Amazon. So any way you want to look at it, if you're mad about the fires, it's Jair Bolsonaro. If you're mad about the Amazon being destroyed, you should be mad at Jair Bolsonaro. So when people just post, pray for the Amazon, you're missing all that context. People don't know what's actually going on. People don't know that there's actually someone to blame, that there's policies to blame, and there's policies that need to be changed if you want to actually fix this. People don't know that. You're just posting, pray for the Amazon. Pray for the Amazon. There should be an international movement, as well as a movement within Brazil, to get Jair Bolsonaro to resign. There should be immense pressure to get him to resign, or at the very least reverse course on his policies. That should be priority. And when the messaging that's being spread all across social media, millions of people, millions of social media accounts are spreading this pray for the Amazon hashtag, you're not mobilizing people the way that they need to be mobilized. You're not drawing attention to this issue the way that it needs to be if you actually want to do something. All you're doing is virtue signaling and the laziest form of activism that you could possibly think of. And don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people who say you can't do any activism online. That is dead wrong. You can reach millions of people online. But when you do it lazily, when you're doing it just to fit in with the celebrities that were tweeting hashtag save the Amazon or hashtag pray for the Amazon, when you're doing it to fit in with your other friends that are posting it, and you can't be bothered to actually look into the situation, to look into how this started and how we actually going to do anything to fix it, all you care about is posting pray for the Amazon to look cool. That is the laziest form of activism. So again, like I said earlier, I preface this by saying it might just be me. I might be sensitive. This may be sticking in my craw for some reason. I don't know. It may be just a personal grievance that I have. Let me know if you guys agree with me in the comment section. But I think that it just irks me. It gets under my fucking skin. And the last thing I want to talk about, the lack of media coverage. And I know I just lambasted the social media reaction to this news about the Amazon, but there's been a point going around that is so poignant and so accurate. When the Notre Dame Cathedral was on fire a couple months ago, wall-to-wall coverage on every major news outlet, not just in the United States, around the world. Major international headlines. Within hours, millionaires and billionaires across the world, the bourgeoisie, all came together and said, you know what, whatever it takes to rebuild the Notre Dame Cathedral, I'm doing it. We're going to put in the money and we're going to get this thing done. Within hours. Amazon rainforest, like I mentioned a couple times already in this segment, one of the most vital resources in the entire planetary ecosystem, provides 20% of the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. The hugest filter for carbon that we have on the planet, and it's holding back the most extreme runaway effects of climate change. That resource has been burning for almost a month without any major mainstream media coverage. Jair Bolsonaro, since he came into office, has made it his mission to deregulate the agribusiness industry and to greenlight this unprecedented, no-holds-barred assault on the Amazon rainforest. Not a peep about it on mainstream media. And you have to ask yourself why. Why is that? Why is there such a huge discrepancy in these two stories? The reason is, one of them is a damning indictment of right-wing politics, of pro-corporate policies, and capitalism in general. That's the Amazon story. And the other one was just a sensational story with no real bearing on people's lives or policy or anything like that. So, of course, that's what the media chooses to go with. That's what they chose to do, wall-to-wall coverage, nonstop, hour after hour for days, was the nonsense sensational story. But the story that actually affects all life on planet Earth, yeah, we're just going to ignore that, because then if we talk about it, if we actually do some serious coverage on that, we can't avoid the role capitalism and corporatism has played in this crisis. Jair Bolsonaro is the encapsulation of what this right-wing agenda has been for decades. This whole Milton Friedman, Ronald Reagan, and Margaret Thatcher school of thought, this extreme pro-corporate agenda of deregulation and tax cuts for the rich and privatization. Jair Bolsonaro encapsulates all of that. He's trying to privatize their social security in Brazil. He's trying to privatize their healthcare system in Brazil. He's trying to privatize the education system. He's trying to privatize the energy system in Brazil. And then his deregulation of the Amazon rainforest, like I've talked about already. Every aspect of Jair Bolsonaro's agenda that you can think of is extremely pro-corporate and pro-unfettered capitalism. You can't talk about how the Amazon rainforest is burning without talking about how Jair Bolsonaro and his right-wing politics are directly responsible. And mainstream media does not want to have that conversation because they're part of that corporate class, that billionaire class, that oligarch class, the people who benefit the most from the status quo, the establishment. That's who CNN and the mainstream media represents. So if they have to choose between covering a story that has implications of whether or not this planet survives, or just ignore it and act like it's not happening to keep the corporate donors happy, they're always going to choose keep the corporate donors happy, which is why they're so shitty on the issue of climate change in general. The corporate incentives are pushing them in the opposite direction of not covering them. Or if they do cover it, they want to do it 50-50 and act like the Republicans and the conservatives and the anti-science people, the people who don't believe in climate change, have just as valid argument as people who believe in science. So that's that. That's where it is. The media coverage has been shitty. I guess I kind of appreciate the effort on social media, but still you're missing the mark. And this entire story, this entire this shit is scary. This shit is scary, and it should concern everyone because, like I've mentioned over and over again, the Amazon goes, we go.